In the constantly changing world of fundability, the big question is this: how are entrepreneurs and real estate investors like us, ones who want to grow our businesses and who are tired of paying for really expensive alternative lending, how do we tap into the most inexpensive money available and do it without the hassle of typical borrowing? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. Welcome to the Get Fundable podcast with your host, Merrill Chandler.
Welcome, everybody. Merrill Chandler here. All right. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about the degradation process of a mortgage. And I took one of my courses that I took at FICO, actually used this slide deck. And as a participant, we get access to the slide deck. So I want to share with you, since many people are concerned about mortgages, the moratoriums and the deferral programs that many of the lenders are doing, and how they affect us. But what does a 30-day late, how does it affect score? And more importantly, how does it affect recouping lost fundability? So we're going to get into that right now. First of all, I have to shout out the lenders that they are doing it so differently this recession than they did in 2008. Whereas then, the second the economy crashed, they went into kind of a panic mode. I'll be bold enough to say, and it literally just prolonged the mess of everything. Now they're stepping up. They learned so much from FICO, and they learned so much from FICO's training of the modeling of who are resilient borrowers, who are risky borrowers during a recession. Learned so much there. They built their own lending guidelines to tighten up the target and keep lending. So everybody's been working on who can I trust to lend to during a recession. It's all the rage in all the training and everything that's going on with the FICO training series that they're going on, of which I am totally excited to be a part. So I'm going to share my screen right now and kind of walk through some of the things that that FICO is talking about in two ways. One, what is a simulated impact to a report on 30, 60, 90 days, short sales, et cetera. So we can kind of predict what the fall of a score would look like for different consumer situations, and how long it'll take to recoup. So let me go there right now. And for those of you who are not part of, who are not watching, I'm going to be as descriptive as possible. But this may I'm showing a chart straight from one of the FICO training description decks, right? The slide decks in the presentation that I watched. And one of the things that we need to remember is that if you can come and we will drop these in the blog, and we'll have these in the blog so you can read through it and then look at those graphics, or you can watch me through this. But if you're running, if you're I used to say if you're at the gym, but if you're exercising, if you're listening on a commute to work, we'll be as descriptive as possible. Now, as you can see down the left-hand column, there's a starting score, right? And there are four borrower models, right? They call them consumer A, B, C, and D. But of course, we refer to them as borrowers. We want to become professional borrowers, not kind of rookie consumers. So I'm just gonna use the parlance that I want to train you to use in referring to you and all the other borrowers that may be impacted by these very mortgage late situations. So down the left column, it talks about a 30-day late, 60-day late, a 90-day late, and then a short sale or settlement, and then a short sale with no deficiency balance and a deficiency balance, foreclosure, and all the way to a bankruptcy. So this is the degradation that we talked about a few episodes ago about trade line accounts. This is specific to mortgages. So the scores that we're talking about for consumer A is 680, consumer B is 720, consumer C is 780, and consumer D is 820. So on a 30-day late, as you can see, there are, and you can see my my arrow, correct? So if for those of you who are watching, 30 days late, if you have a 680, you're going to drop approximately 60 to 80 points. Between 600 and 620 is going to be your score, 30-day late. A 60-day and a 90-day, you're going to drop to the same level. So what that means is, regardless of whether you're 30, 60, or 90, you're going to lose an aggregate set of points of approximately 60 to 80 points, all right, in all of those. But if you do a short sale, then it's going to be 610 to 630. Now, here's the question. Why does FICO give you more points for doing a short sale than going late? I have the answer. The reason is because you have terminated that credit experience, right? That trade line is now terminated. So because it's resolved, they're giving you a 10 to 20 point increase above that 600, 620. They're giving you a boost in your score for having completed the transaction. Even if it's a short sale, you still went to get to a short sale. You have to go through a 30, 60, 90 late. But I'm telling you, this is for resolving it with no deficiency balance. Resolving it with no deficiency balance means that your score is actually going to go up from those delinquencies, the late pays. But if you do a short sale and there is a deficiency balance, now here's the thing: it doesn't matter how much the deficiency is. You did not pay the full amount that you owed on that loan. A deficiency balance means, let's say your house is worth 200 grand. You sell it in a short sale for you owe a note for, let's say, 200 grand, and then you sell it in a short sale for 180. You have a deficiency balance of 20 grand. No bueno. And if you have no deficiency balance, your score goes up from those late pays. But if you have a deficiency balance in that short sale, you actually take a hit. As you can see here, for those of you who are watching, you take another 5 to 25 point hit. You're going to be in the 575 to 595 range. Now, going through a short sale with a deficiency balance and doing a foreclosure is going to affect you about the same. So a foreclosure is where they take the property back, and with a deficiency, usually when they take the property back, many times there's a deficiency balance. So a foreclosure means you didn't try to resolve it. You didn't try to get the lender's money back. You didn't show up as a true partner saying, hey, I want to take care of your needs just like you're trying to take care of mine when you lent to me. Then foreclosure and short sale with a deficiency balance are about the same, because they usually have the same deficiency balance issues attached to it. Not always, but usually. But the foreclosure alone, let's say you don't have a deficiency balance on that foreclosure. That, even if you paid it off, it means they had to come after you to get the resources to pay back the loan. That's not a great message to your lender partners. So the short sale with the deficiency and foreclosure, that's why they have very, very similar. Now, bankruptcy is going to take after a 30-day, 60 or 90-day late, if it goes to a bankruptcy, foreclosure, or if you include that mortgage in a bankruptcy, you're going to get an additional 50 to 70 point deduction off of that short sale. So as you can see, there is a declination, there's a degradation of the scores for each one of these areas that you go through. Now, here's what's interesting. here's what's interesting. If you let's go to consumer B, and again, refer to this in the written while you're listening. If you can refer to this in the written blog, then you'll be able to see these. But consumer B, they start out with 720, so it's 40 points higher, and that is basically reflected across the board, all the way down to bankruptcy. And what I mean is that you're going to lose about the same number of proportionate points. You're going to end up a little higher on a 30-day late. So here's the great thing. If you have a 720 and you're 30 days late, you're not going to fall a 30, 60, or 90 days late. You're not going to fall as much as you do if you're at a 680. So you get points for having that original higher score. It's still down in the low 600s, but it's not as low as if you started out with a 680. Where it all becomes even is that if you do a short sale with no deficiency balance, you're basically in the same category as if you had a 680. So a 720 doesn't really help you. It helps you if you only go through lates and then recoup and get back on plan. If you go all the way to a short sale with no deficiency or a short sale with deficiency, foreclosure, and bankruptcy, within 5 to 10 points, you are in the exact same place. Your 720 did not help you when it comes to selling the property or going into bankruptcy or foreclosure. So those are important things, and that goes across the board no matter how high the score. Let's look at consumer C. If you have a 780, so 780 most people think is a smoking score. Good news is a 780, if you just stay in the lates, 30 late, 60 late, 90 late, you're going to be approximately 650 to 690, and you're going to stay a relatively decent score. So if to compare consumer C with consumer A, if you have a 780 to start with, you may be down with the consumer A scorecard group of people and group of borrowers after 30, 60, or 90. Now, the cool thing is at a 780, there is a significant higher score for each one of the degradation levels. So instead of having a 600 on a 30-day late, you get to keep your 670. Instead of a 60-day late that goes to 600, you're going to have a 650 to 670, etc. Now, where it also supports you is having a 780 with a short sale with no deficiency. You're going to stay in that same 650 to 675 range. It's going to help you significantly all the way down until bankruptcy. At bankruptcy, all bets are off, and you're going to end up within 5 to 10 points of all the other scores at bankruptcy. Remember, bankruptcy is the great equalizer when it comes to making arrangements or non-arrangements with your lenders to pay them off. You're actually walking away from the debt. FICO cleans within 5 to 10 points. It literally levels the playing field of all people who are in bankruptcy. Okay. Now let's go to our final one, consumer D at 820. So this is now a statistically significant, less than 5% of all borrowers are above 800. So this is statistically significant, but it's the same drop in points. So an 820 takes you to a 710. You're still losing that 710 to 730. That means you are still losing that 60 to 80 points. It's just that when you have a fundable 800 plus profile, any negative impact is going to lose the same number of points, but it doesn't affect your fundability as drastically. Now, if it goes to bankruptcy, all bets are off again. So let's take a look at that. You're at a 30-day late. There's lots of forgiveness. Look at this. There's lots of forgiveness if you have a 720 and you have one 30-day late. Boom, you're at 710 to 730. But 60-day late, you're in the 665 to 685 range. 60 and 90 days late, you're now down. You're higher than a 680 consumer at the starting point. But I'm telling you, you could be 60 to 70, 80 points higher, but now you're in that tier 3, tier 4 unfundable land. If you only keep it to a 30-day late, then you can stay in relative fundability, even though you may have to prove up in other ways to make sure any future lender lends to you. But the score maintains some stability. You still lose 80 to 90 points, but you're above 700 and 720 and 740, etc. For a mortgage. 740 is still a fundable score. Even though FHA and Fannie and Freddie require a minimum of 3 years to re-lend to you after a 30 or 60 or a 90, but at least you're starting from a very, very, very strong spot. Now, when it comes to short sales with deficiency, with a balance, with foreclosures or bankruptcies, you're in the same 550 to you're mid 500s, and you are completely out of the game. So all right, so having said that, now remember, this simulation assumes that nothing else changes, not multiple lates, not multiple foreclosures on multiple houses. This is one thing that is changing on your entire borrower profile. Now let's look at the recoup times. This is fascinating. All right. Now, first of all, we're using the same consumer scores, and we're going down. The left column is still the same, starting scores and 30, 60, 90 late, short sale with a deficiency, meaning with a balance remaining, short sale without foreclosure and bankruptcy. Notice, time for score to recover from the following actions gives you a framework, and that's what we're going to go over right now. So 30 days late on a mortgage, if you're at a 680, it's going to take 9 months-ish, plus or minus. These are, and given no other considerations, no other movement, it's going to take you 9 months to recoup to a 680. If you have a 720, it's 2.5 years to come back. 780 is 3 years, and an 820 is 7 years. Now, remember, we're not talking fundability. We're talking, this is just a score simulation. And to be honest, this is part of FICO's and the lender's kind of shiny object. They want us to see score impact. I want you to see score impact, but you may not hit 820 for approximately 7 years after a 30-day late mortgage, but you're going to be fundable far sooner than that. That's why we focus on fundability and not score. But think of it this way. Notice it's kind of logarithmic, right? So you got 9 months, 2.5 years. A 720 to 780 is about the same. And you'll see that over time, that a 720 and a 780 credit score for consumers is going to have the relative recoup time of the same. But 720, 780 are going to have the same number of years to recoup a 720 to a 780, which is fascinating to me, because you've got 60 points, right? That's a 720 is a tier 2 for a mortgage. A 780 is a tier 1 plus for a mortgage, might even be close to a double A. But the recoup times to get back to 720, get back to 780 is the same. Now, but notice over here on Consumer D, if you have an 820, it's going to take more or less 7 years to recuperate from anything. And bankruptcy is 7 to 10 years, meaning you're lendable, you're fundable after 7 years, but it's going to stay on your report for 10 and therefore be counting against you. Now think about that. To get back to a 680, now some people think, well, okay, I'm glad I have a 680 credit score, because I will be back to a 680 shortly, within 9 months, 3 years, 5 years for a bankruptcy. The problem is that score doesn't represent a highly fundable profile regardless. So while it may take shorter amount of time to get there, you're also going to be spending another year or two going from a 680 to a 780. Okay, especially if you're working with us, we're able, on average, we're 100 to 150 points a year in building fundable profile points that are reflected by my FICO. So the thing that I wanted to share, the thing that is the coolest thing for me, and when I say cool, I'm talking about geek, not the length of time, that an 820, no matter where you are, a 30-day late to get back to an 820, all the way down to a foreclosure is going to take you approximately 7 years to recoup and get back that 820 points. Now, or get back to a total of 820. Now, here's what, why does this matter? Why am I reviewing this? All right. First of all, I want you to know the negative impact of going late on a score. Now, a mortgage is a secured loan. All right. And as I've said dozens of times throughout all these podcasts, I've said it a dozen times that real estate backed loans and lines of credit, a HELOC, do not move the needle as much as unsecured. So there may be more significant impact. This was score-based education from FICO about mortgages, not revolving accounts. So those accounts, actually unsecured accounts, especially higher amounts that you would have a deficiency balance, right? A charge off that isn't paid, may actually impact negatively far more than a mortgage does. A mortgage is a secured instrument, and straight from the chief scientist at FICO, it does not move the needle as much as unsecured do. All right. So take a look at that 820. I want you guys to understand that. Now let's talk about the recession. I'm sharing this with you so that you have the ability to create a strategic review of your finances. Remember implementing the doomsday protocols we talk about in the boot camp, etc. You've got to do the doomsday protocols because you need to know what your cash flow is for your personal world, for your business world, and what is frivolous, what is not relevant, what can we get rid of, because you need to do everything you possibly can to protect this financial reputation, to protect your profile and those payments. Now, one of the great things that we've talked about before, and I'm going to mention it again, the only thing we do not use to protect your financial reputation is the thing that you can't recoup. You can buy another house, so sell a house, take the proceeds, and maintain your financial reputation. You can sell a car, you can sell a motorcycle, you can sell lots of things to garner income and maintain the payments if you're in survival mode, right? What you can't do is you can't go get another 10 years, 25 years worth of pension or retirement account money. So we draw the line, our formal stand is that we draw the line at your personal liquid savings and personal liquid retirement accounts. Now, if those are two separate things, and you've got prospects for further employment or being able to pick up the pieces, then use your savings to protect your investment, because you can always accumulate more. When I say investment, protect the investment you've put into your fundable profile. But you can always garner more savings. You've spent 5, 10, 25, 50 years on a retirement account. Be very deliberate. Be very deliberate about using those funds to protect your financial reputation, because it's easier. It takes a while, but it's easier to protect to let your financial reputation and your partnerships with your lenders go than it is to gather another IRA or retirement account with tens, dozens, hundreds of thousands of dollars. You can't get those back. So if it's only exists once, if it's once in a lifetime thing like a retirement account, then we don't sacrifice that. If it's multiple in a lifetime, cars, home loans, investment properties, apartment complexes. You can get those back on the other side of, because you will have protected your financial reputation, and you will have proven up to the lenders that you are a solid and credible partner to them, and they will lend to you after the recession. So those are, I share these mortgage things with you, this degradation process with mortgages, because we just got through doing one about your earlier in our podcast series about collection accounts, trade lines, etc. I wanted to make sure we had a representation of the relationship you have with mortgages on the same. So be sure and comment about this. If you like what you're hearing, if you have questions about this, go to the Get Fundable Facebook page, like it, and then and ask questions there. Join us in that conversation. That's our tribe, and we want to make sure that you're getting your questions answered, and that you can participate in all these further learnings that we get from FICO, and then we have the honor of sharing it with you. This is Merrill Chandler, your host of the Get Fundable podcast. And I'm thrilled that you're joining me. Keep binging. There's so many things that are here for you to not just understand and learn, but ways in which you can implement. So go to getfundablebook.com if you would like a synthesis, the strategies or the principles of fundability, so you know how this game is being played. Go to getfundablebootcamp.com if you want to find out how to implement those strategies and really start building your financial reputation. I will see you guys on the next episode. Have a spectacular day.
Thank you for listening to the Get Fundable podcast. Please leave comments, because Merrill would love to read about your aha moments from this episode. And be sure to visit getfundable.com to read our blog, get important links, join our community, and much, much more, like ordering Merrill's tell-all book that is changing the world, The New F Word. And you got to tell your friends about this podcast, because we want them to get fundable too.